Whose birthday is this again? I asked, louder than I meant to, holding a slice of untouched cake that no one seemed to notice wasn't mine. No one answered, because no one heard me, except maybe Blaine, who glanced at me from across the table with that stupid, smug half-smile, the kind that doesn't touch the eyes but screams, "You don't belong here." And maybe I didn't. Trina was mid-laugh, clutching his arm like he'd just told the funniest story in the world. She laughed so hard she had to lean into him, brushing crumbs from his jacket like she was his wife, not mine. I watched her do it. Watched her fingers linger on his sleeve. Watched her eyes shine for him. The fork in my hand wobbled. I tightened my grip. The bar was loud, but not loud enough to drown out the quiet hum in my head, like the buzzing of a light bulb seconds before it dies. That was me. Dimming. Burning out. I counted 4 people at the table who said, "Happy birthday" to me. Trina wasn't one of them. Everyone else? Too busy soaking in Blaine's adventures in Thailand or laughing about some inside joke that I apparently never got the memo on. I wasn't supposed to feel this way. I was supposed to be happy. It was my birthday. My 39th. There were decorations. Candles. A sign that said, "Cheers, Lonnie," in crooked gold letters. Except the only person saying cheers to me was me. I stood up. Nobody noticed. I walked to the restroom, not because I needed to go, but because I needed to stare at something that wouldn't smile at Blaine. The mirror looked tired. Puffy. My hair was doing that weird parting thing again. I adjusted my shirt collar, took a deep breath, and whispered, "You're fine. Just get through tonight." That's what I told myself every day lately. Just get through. Back at the table, someone had taken my seat. Blaine. Trina had moved over to make room for him. I blinked, actually blinked in disbelief, standing there like an idiot with nowhere to sit. My name was still on the plate, for God's sake. But my chair, my spot, was gone. Replaced. No one offered to get up. Trina didn't even look guilty. She just smiled up at him, resting her chin on her palm. I walked past the table. Straight past them all. Out the front door. The cold air hit me like a slap. But it was better than sitting there invisible. Better than being a ghost at my own celebration. I stood on the sidewalk for maybe 2 minutes before my phone buzzed. One message. From Trina. "Where'd you go?" That was it. No. "Are you okay?" No. "I'm sorry." Just a sentence that felt like a spotlight I never wanted. I typed a reply. Deleted it. Typed another one. Deleted that too. Then I turned off my phone. And that's when the real story began. Because walking away wasn't the dramatic part. What happened after? That's where things get truly messed up. I didn't go far. Just walked down the block and leaned against a parking meter like I was waiting for someone. Truth is, I didn't know what to do. I wasn't angry in the loud kind of way. I wasn't crying or panicking. I just felt hollow. Like someone had scooped me out quietly, slowly, over the course of a year, and this was the moment I realized there was nothing left inside. Across the street, I could still see the glow of the bar. Warm lights, clinking glasses, shadows moving behind the windows. Someone was dancing. Not me. Probably Blaine. Probably with my wife. For a few minutes, I thought maybe I was being ridiculous. Overreacting. Maybe I was tired, sensitive, needy. But then I heard the door open behind me and footsteps. I didn't look. "Lonnie," Trina's voice said. Flat. No panic, no apology, just a name like it belonged to someone she didn't really want to be saying. "You okay?" she asked. And then, without waiting for a real answer, "People are asking where you went." I turned slowly. She was wearing that black wrap dress she never used to wear around me. Hair done in soft waves. Perfume I hadn't smelled in months. She looked expensive. Polished. For Blaine, probably. Not for me. "I needed air," I said, trying not to sound like I was trembling. "Well," she said, glancing at her phone, "come back inside when you're ready. We still have the cake." The way she said the cake, like it was some shared joy we'd waited all year for. Like it would fix this. "I'm not coming back," I told her. She blinked. "What?" I said, "I'm not coming back in there." "Lonnie," she whispered, suddenly scanning the street like someone might be watching. "Can we not do this out here?" I laughed, which surprised even me. "You mean don't make a scene?" She rolled her eyes. "You're twisting everything." "No, Trina. You twisted it. You twisted our marriage around Blaine. You twisted the whole night to be about him. Hell, you twisted me out of my own seat." "You're being dramatic," she hissed. "He's just a friend." "Right. A friend who got the best seat, the best attention, and the best version of you tonight." She didn't respond. And that silence? That told me everything I needed to know. So I walked. Not far. Just a few more blocks. I didn't even realize where I was going until I was there, outside the little 24-hour diner where we had our first real fight. Funny how memory works like that. I sat at the booth by the window and stared at the untouched sugar packets. That's when I got the second text. Not from Trina. It was from my cousin, Miles. He was at the party. Dude, I think you need to know something. I wasn't gonna say anything. But this is bad. Then another. I saw them. Before you walked out. They kissed. Just those 3 words. They kissed. And something in me cracked wide open. Because suddenly everything made sense. The long phone calls. The late work nights. The way she always defended him. The seat switch. The glowing laughter. It wasn't in my head. I wasn't imagining it. I'd been erased. The waitress came to my table. Asked if I wanted anything. I said coffee. Even though I don't drink coffee at night. I just needed to hold something. Something warm. Something real. Something that wasn't pretending anymore. And while the cup steamed in my hands, I stared at my reflection in the window. I wasn't just a husband anymore. I was a man standing on the edge of a life he no longer recognized. And the fall was just beginning. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a little. I sat at the diner for over 2 hours, just watching the world outside grow quieter, darker. A few late-night loners came and went. A drunk couple argued near the window, and the waitress, her name tag said Dolores, asked me 4 times if I wanted anything else. I think she knew. Not the details, but the look on my face. The way I held the coffee like it was keeping me alive. She stopped asking questions after a while. Just kept refilling the cup. When I finally got home, the house felt unfamiliar. I unlocked the door, stepped into the hallway, and paused. Everything looked normal. Her shoes by the mat. Her purse tossed on the bench. But the silence wasn't peaceful, it was sharp, like something waiting to be said that neither of us wanted to hear. I didn't see her. The bedroom door was closed. I didn't bother opening it. I slept on the couch. Well, I tried. I stared at the ceiling and tried to count all the things I had ignored. The signs. The weird silences. The canceled plans. That time she told me she had a girls' weekend, but came home with sand in her hair and a tan line across her shoulder I didn't remember. The little smirks when she texted. The way she had slowly stopped asking me anything about my day. I remembered once, maybe a year ago, I came home with a bottle of red wine and said, "Let's do nothing tonight. Just you and me. No TV, no phones. Just us." She looked up from her laptop and said, "That sounds boring." I laughed it off, told myself she was tired. But I should have known. That was the moment she stopped choosing me. Morning crept in around 5. I didn't change clothes. Just sat there in the same button-up shirt from the night before, still faintly smelling like bar smoke and her perfume. Well, her and Blaine shared perfume, I guess. She walked into the kitchen around 6 in her robe, like everything was fine. Like she hadn't publicly humiliated me in front of half the people we know. She looked at me, hair messy, eyes puffy. "You never came back." I said nothing. She poured herself coffee and added that creamer she hides at the back of the fridge. Coconut something. I always hated the smell. She leaned against the counter and glanced at me, waiting. Like she expected me to start the conversation. Like I owed her something. "I know," she said finally, breaking the silence. "It looked bad." I blinked. "It looked bad," I repeated slowly. "That's what you're starting with?" She sighed. "Lonnie, I didn't mean for the night to go that way. Blaine just..." "No," I cut in, holding up a hand. "Don't do that. Don't make this about how it looked. Just tell me the truth." She stared at me. Her fingers wrapped around the mug a little tighter. "Are you seeing him?" I asked. My voice was small. I hated how small it sounded. Like I was 12 again, asking my older brother if he really ate the last slice of cake. Her answer wasn't a yes. It wasn't a no, either. She looked away, took a sip of her drink. And that told me everything I needed. "You know what hurts?" I said, feeling something sharp climb into my throat. "It's not the kiss. It's not even the months of lies. It's the fact that I stopped mattering to you long before this. And you didn't say a word." She finally looked at me, and for the first time in a long time, she looked scared. Not because I'd caught her, but because she realized she couldn't pretend anymore. "I don't know how we got here," she whispered. I stood up. My legs were stiff, sore from sleeping on the couch. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't throw anything. I just picked up my keys, walked past her, and said, "Maybe you should ask Blaine." And then I left again. But this time, I didn't come back. Not that day. Not the next. Because what came next wasn't a fight. It wasn't yelling. It was unraveling. And in the middle of it all, I would learn one more thing. She hadn't just lied about Blaine. There was someone else. And they knew things about me that they shouldn't have. I didn't go to work. I didn't tell anyone where I was. I didn't even pack a bag. I just drove. Through the outer neighborhoods of town, past strip malls and car dealerships, through the fog of morning traffic like a ghost in a borrowed car. I kept thinking, I'll turn back in 10 minutes. But I didn't. I drove until the road curved into silence. Eventually, I pulled into a motel on the edge of Fairview. One of those places with neon signs, missing letters, and vending machines that only take coins. The kind of place that smells like wet carpet and forgotten stories. I paid cash. The guy at the desk barely looked up. I appreciated that. Inside the room, I sat on the edge of the bed for an hour without moving. Not thinking. Just listening to the stillness. And then, stupidly, I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through photos. There was one from last summer. A blurry selfie of us at a county fair. Trina's hair was windblown, and my glasses were crooked. I remembered her grabbing my hand that day when we got separated near the kettle corn stand. I remembered thinking, she still wants me. And now I looked at that same photo, trying to figure out when she stopped. The messages started coming in again that afternoon. First from Trina, then from Miles, then from my sister, who apparently got wind of something through one of Trina's friends on Facebook. But one message stood out. A number I didn't recognize. No name. Just a gray bubble that read, "You should know Blaine isn't the only one. Ask her about Dean." I stared at it for 10 full minutes. Dean. I didn't know a Dean. Not in our circle. Not at work. Not in her office, as far as I could recall. I replied, "Who is this?" No answer. I tried calling. Straight to voicemail. No name. Just static. So I called Miles. He picked up on the first ring. "Dude," he said, "where are you?" "Trina's freaking out." "Yeah," I said. "Good. She told everyone you had a panic episode and needed space." That made me laugh. A bitter, broken sound. Right. Panic episode. I didn't panic, Miles. I woke up. He went quiet. Then, I saw more than the kiss. What? She grabbed his face, Lonnie. Like it wasn't new. Like she'd done it before. I didn't want to say anything at the party, but I couldn't unsee it. She told me it was a mistake. It didn't look like one. I stared at the motel ceiling, a patch of mold spreading in the corner like a silent witness. "Do you know a Dean?" He hesitated. "Dean Mercer." I didn't know the name. "Who is he?" He's a regional consultant. Works with Trina's firm sometimes. I met him once at that thing last year. Older guy. Super charming. Bald. Wears rings on every finger. Weird vibe." I swallowed hard. "She knows him. They went on a work trip together last spring." "She didn't tell you?" My hands went cold. "No," I whispered. "No, she didn't." After I hung up, I opened Trina's calendar. She used to sync it with mine. We had shared everything. I still had access. And there it was. March 14th to 17th, Atlanta. Regional Strategy Retreat, Mercer led. The same weekend she came home late and told me she'd lost her suitcase. The same weekend she said her phone fell in the sink and she'd missed all my calls. The same weekend she brought back a bottle of bourbon and said, "For us," but never opened it. I felt sick. This wasn't just Blaine. This was a pattern. A map of deceit that stretched farther than I thought possible. And somehow, she had kept it so quiet, so calm, so routine. That night, I sat outside my motel room on a broken plastic chair, drinking from a Coke bottle I didn't want, and I cried. I don't even remember the last time I cried. It didn't feel good. It felt humiliating. Like my face was finally reacting to the shame my heart had been carrying for years. And then I got another message. Same number. No name. "You want proof?" Check her cloud backup. Look in the folder labeled Events. I hadn't touched her cloud in ages. She used to ask me for tech help all the time, but somewhere along the way, she stopped asking. Still, I remembered the password. Her old cat's name, in the year she graduated. It worked. And what I found in that folder, I swear to you, it changed everything. My fingers hovered above the screen as the folder labeled Events began to load. I wasn't even sure what I expected to find. Some receipts, maybe, or blurry pictures of conference centers and fancy meals. Part of me hoped I was wrong. That the message was fake. That I'd open it and find nothing. Just boring files, stuff I could forget about and move on from. But deep down, I already knew. The folder contained 212 items. Videos, photos, screenshots, each one with a timestamp. The first thumbnail that caught my eye was from March 15th. She was in a hotel room. The furniture was unfamiliar, but the background had that telltale beige and maroon decor of corporate travel. Trina stood in front of a mirror, in a red dress I had never seen before, holding her phone in one hand and snapping a selfie with her lips pursed into a smirk I didn't recognize. She looked different, like she was playing a character, like someone rehearsing for a version of herself that had nothing to do with me. I opened the next photo. Same dress. But now she wasn't alone. Dean was standing behind her, shirtless, his arm draped over her shoulder like they'd done this 100 times. She was smiling, not the way she smiled in our old photos. This smile was sharper, bolder, like she knew what she was doing and didn't care who saw it. I felt my chest go tight. My breathing slowed. Every second that passed made my head feel heavier, like I was being pushed underwater and told not to scream. I opened a video, just a few seconds long. Dean was holding the camera, filming her while she giggled and whispered, "Turn that off. We're gonna get caught." But she was laughing. She wasn't scared. She wanted it. She wanted him. I slammed the phone onto the motel nightstand and stared at the wall. I didn't cry. I didn't move. I just sat there, frozen, with that moment playing in a loop in my head, over and over, like I was being stabbed by something I couldn't see but felt in every inch of my skin. And what hit me hardest wasn't just the betrayal. It was the ease of it. The way she recorded those moments. Labeled the folder so casually. Like this was just something she did. Like it didn't mean anything. Like she could live 2 lives and expect me never to notice. I don't know how long I stayed like that. Maybe an hour. Maybe 3. Eventually, I picked up my phone again and kept scrolling. Like some masochistic ritual, I couldn't stop. There were photos with Blaine too. From months before the party. A dinner at a rooftop bar. A trip to the lake. Selfies in a car I didn't recognize. In one of them, Blaine was kissing her cheek while she winked at the camera. That one stung worst of all. Not because of what they were doing, but because she looked genuinely happy. When was the last time she looked that happy with me? I dug further, searching dates, locations. Found photos from nights she told me she was with her cousin. From weekends she said she had team-building retreats. She had lied so effortlessly, so routinely, that I began questioning every weekend she ever spent away from home. Then I noticed something strange. A recurring file name that kept showing up every few weeks, Bluebird. At first, I thought it was just a label, maybe an inside joke or a password. But the more I looked, the more it showed up. A different hotel each time. A different city. Always the same man, Dean. Always the same pattern. Friday night, video or photo labeled Bluebird, followed by radio silence for a day or 2. And then it hit me. Bluebird was the name she used to call me when we first started dating. A nickname. Something tender, private, something she whispered when we danced in the kitchen or watched dumb movies on the couch. I thought it was sweet back then. Now, it felt like a dagger in the stomach. She had used it to catalog her affairs. I felt sick. I ran to the motel bathroom and threw up. My knees buckled on the tile. I stayed on the floor, clutching my stomach, trying to breathe. How long had I been a stranger in my own life? When I finally pulled myself back together, I knew I couldn't stay there any longer. I packed up my few things and checked out without saying a word. Drove until the sun began to rise behind the tree line. My phone buzzed once more, another message from the unknown number. "Did you find Bluebird?" No name. No sign-off. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Instead, I drove to my sister's house, parked in her driveway, and just sat there with the engine running. She opened the door in her pajamas, eyes wide. "What happened?" she asked. And all I could say was, "Everything." Because now I wasn't just a husband whose wife cheated. I was the guy who had proof of it all. And what I did with that proof. That was going to change everything. My sister didn't say much at first. She didn't need to. She just led me to the couch, handed me a blanket even though it wasn't cold, and sat down across from me, waiting. There's something about family, when it's real, that doesn't require explanations. She knew something had broken. She could see it in my face. I think she was just waiting for me to say the words out loud. I couldn't. Not yet. I must have sat there for an hour, unmoving, staring at the same spot on her bookshelf, a chipped ceramic giraffe we'd made together in the 3rd grade. It was the only thing in that room that felt the same as it used to. Everything else, my marriage, my sense of self, the truth, was unrecognizable now. Somewhere in my chest, I could feel a tight, grinding pressure building. It wasn't rage. I wish it had been. Rage would have been easier. It was humiliation, disgust, and a strange kind of grief that came from knowing you've been living in a lie that everyone else already accepted. Eventually, she asked, "Are you hurt?" I blinked. No, not physically. She leaned in. "Do I need to do something?" I hesitated. I was so used to swallowing my feelings, to minimizing, to patching holes in my pride before anyone noticed them leaking. But something in me had changed. Maybe it was the motel. Maybe it was the file named Bluebird. Maybe it was seeing Trina's face pressed against a man's chest in a hotel room I'd never stepped foot in. I pulled out my phone, opened the folder, handed it to her. She scrolled in silence. I watched her expression shift, confusion, then anger, then something sadder. She stopped on one video, didn't play it, just shook her head and set the phone down like it was radioactive. "Oh my God, Lonnie," she whispered. "How long?" "I don't know," I said. "Long enough that I stopped noticing." She looked at me like she didn't understand, and I couldn't blame her. Because the truth was, I let it happen. I let Trina slowly fade from me without fighting back. I kept pretending the cracks were temporary. I thought if I worked harder, loved harder, tried harder, she'd eventually remember who we used to be. But she didn't forget. She replaced me. "Are you going to confront her?" my sister asked. "I already did." "About Blaine, not about Dean. You going to tell her you know about that too?" I stared at the floor. I don't think she deserves to know what I know. It was a strange thing to say, but I meant it. Because this wasn't just a matter of betrayal anymore. It was about power. For the first time in years, I knew something she didn't. I saw her mask. I watched it slide off when she thought no one was looking. And now, I was holding every secret she thought she'd buried. I slept on the couch that night, but barely. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that stupid red dress, Dean's rings, Trina's grin. Every time I blinked, it was like opening a door I couldn't close again. Around 3 a.m., I gave up, went outside, sat on the porch and watched the motion sensor light flick on and off as moths flew too close. That's when I got another message. Same number, same tone. "You don't know the whole story. Not yet. Go to the storage unit." I froze. Storage unit? What storage unit? Trina and I didn't have one. At least, not officially. We never talked about renting one. Never needed it. We had an attic. A basement. Why would she keep things in a unit I didn't know existed? I replied immediately, "What storage unit?" But whoever it was, they were already gone. No reply. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I opened our bank records. The shared account had been inactive for weeks. Trina had moved her money into a private checking account months ago under the guise of separate savings goals. But I had access to the old logs. I went through them line by line. Gas stations, grocery stores, spa visits, a few clothing boutiques that didn't match her usual style. And then, there it was. A $47 monthly charge from Summit Vaults going back 10 months. 10 months ago was around the same time she stopped wearing her wedding ring at work. Said it was giving her a rash. I believed her. Of course I did. I Googled the address. It was only 12 minutes away. I didn't even think. I grabbed my keys, left a note for my sister, and drove. It was still dark when I arrived, the sky that weird pre-dawn gray that makes everything look a little ghostly. I buzzed the office. No one answered. I walked around the fence, looking for cameras. Looking for, I don't even know. Signs of guilt? A key? A miracle? And then I saw it. A small white envelope taped to the door of Unit 117. On the front, in Trina's handwriting, was a name. Not mine. Not Dean's. Not Blaine's. It said Juliet. That's when I realized. I wasn't just dealing with infidelity. I was standing at the edge of something much, much darker. I stood there in the cold morning air, staring at the envelope taped to Unit 117, unable to move. The name Juliet looked strange in Trina's handwriting. Kavya, softer than she usually wrote, like she was trying to be someone else when she wrote it. It didn't make sense. Juliet wasn't her middle name. It wasn't a family member. I racked my brain and came up empty. And yet, something about it made my stomach twist. I took the envelope and stepped back. My hands were shaking. I slid my thumb under the flap and opened it, expecting, what? A love letter? Instructions? A confession? Inside was a single photograph. Glossy 4x6, like something printed at a drugstore. It showed Trina standing in front of a mirror, holding up a child. A little girl. I stumbled back and hit the door behind me. The girl looked maybe 2, maybe younger. Brown curls. A round face. Her eyes were half closed in the kind of lazy grin toddlers make when they're sleepy but happy. Trina was smiling too, but not at the camera. At the child. The kind of smile you don't fake. It was maternal. Gentle. Intimate. My ears began to ring. I flipped the photo over. On the back, written in blue pen, was just one sentence. She knows who you are. Do you? I read it 3 times. My knees almost gave out. I had to lean against the corrugated metal door just to stay upright. My chest felt hollow. The photo fell from my hands. She knows who you are. Do you? The question hung in the air like a scream I couldn't hear. For a long time, I couldn't move. I didn't want to pick the picture up again. I was scared of it. Scared of what it meant. Who was that child? And what did it mean that Trina had kept her hidden? I had never seen her before in my life, and I knew that for certain. So unless Trina had a secret niece no one in the family talked about, there was only one explanation. The child was hers. But not mine. Or worse, maybe she was. That single, terrifying thought broke through everything. If that girl was mine, then what did that mean? When had she been born? Who else knew? Why wasn't I told? And if she wasn't mine, then why did Trina name the envelope after a child she'd kept in a storage unit like a forgotten secret? I couldn't breathe. I called Miles. He answered, groggy. Dude, it's 6:30. I found a photo, I said, voice trembling. Of Trina. With a baby. That woke him up. What? What baby? She's holding a girl. Maybe 2 years old. Maybe younger. There's no date. No name. But it's definitely Trina. It looks recent. You think it's hers? I don't know what to think. Where are you? Summit Vaults. He cursed under his breath. Okay. Okay. Don't touch anything else. I'm coming. I hung up and looked at the lock on Unit 117. It was standard padlock and keyhole. The envelope hadn't come with a key, but a maintenance cart sat nearby. A bolt cutter hung from the side. I hesitated, just for a second. Then I grabbed it. The lock snapped off with a sharp, metallic pop, and I opened the door. Inside, the air was stale. It smelled like cardboard and drywood and something faintly chemical, like perfume that had gone bad. The light flickered on after a few seconds. The unit was filled with boxes, labeled things like work archives and legal records. But in the back corner, near a plastic storage bin, was a small bookshelf. On the top shelf sat 3 teddy bears, a pink baby blanket, and a baby monitor. And a birth certificate. I stepped closer. My hands moved on their own. I picked up the certificate and read the name aloud without realizing. Juliet Camille Bishop. Born March 29, 2023. Mother, Trina Bishop. Father, blank. I sank to the floor. March 29th. That was exactly 6 months after the retreat she took with Dean. 6 months after she came home with that cheap bottle of bourbon and wouldn't stop smiling for 3 days. 6 months after she started humming to herself while folding laundry. I had thought she was just in a good mood. Now I knew it was something else. She was pregnant. She was pregnant and never told me. And now there was a child somewhere. A girl. A daughter. My daughter? Or Dean's? Or Blaine's? I didn't know. But someone did. And that someone was watching. Because when I turned around, another envelope had been slid under the partially open storage door. This one had my name on it. Just my name. And inside was something I never expected. I stared at the envelope for a long time before I touched it. My name, just Lonnie written in neat, almost cautious handwriting. Not Trina's. Someone else's. I turned in place, scanning the empty lot, the rows of units stretching off into morning fog. There was no one. Just that same quiet hum of cold air and birds waking up somewhere beyond the fence. I crouched down, picked it up carefully, and opened it. Inside was a single folded piece of paper and a Polaroid. The photo showed Juliet, the little girl from the earlier picture, sitting on a checkered picnic blanket, holding a stuffed giraffe that looked strikingly familiar. The same kind I'd given Trina for our anniversary years ago, when she told me she wanted someday to mean something. In the background of the photo, someone was kneeling. A woman, not Trina. Someone older. Maybe late 50s. Dark hair in a tight bun. She was watching Juliet with such gentle focus, it was almost maternal. The corner of the photo had a faint stamp, July 8, 2024. Then I read the letter. Lonnie, if you're reading this, it means you've found the truth, or at least enough of it. I can't explain everything in this letter, but I need you to know one thing. Juliet is safe. She's loved. She's been raised with kindness and protection by someone who cared when others failed to. Trina made choices that cannot be undone. But this child, this beautiful, resilient little girl, is not your burden. She's your opportunity. You were never supposed to find out like this. But now that you know, you have a choice. You can walk away. No one would blame you. Or you can step into her life. Carefully. Slowly. On your terms. No demands, no expectations. Just presence. Juliet knows your name. And she's waiting. I read the letter 3 times. My hands were shaking. Not from rage, not from grief, but from something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Real, trembling, fragile hope. I sat in the car for a long time after that, just watching the Polaroid. Juliet's smile was toothy and imperfect and utterly genuine. She looked nothing like Trina. Her eyes, they were wide-set and tired in a way that startled me. They looked like mine. When I got back to my sister's house, I told her everything. She didn't interrupt. She didn't even blink when I said, I think I might have a daughter. She just said, okay. So what do you want to do now? And for once, I didn't feel lost. I knew what I had to do. I didn't go back to Trina. I didn't demand answers. The truth, I realized, would never come from her. Her web was too thick, her guilt too layered, her love too fractured. I left her a single message, no anger, no accusations. I simply wrote, I know everything now, and I'm done. Then I deleted her number. The following week, I reached out to a lawyer. I gave them the birth certificate, the letter, the photo. We made contact with the woman in the picture. Her name was Claudia. She had been Trina's former mentor and, somehow, had ended up as Juliet's guardian when Trina wasn't ready. Claudia didn't sound surprised when I called. She just said, I've been waiting for you. We agreed to meet at a park on a warm September afternoon. I stood by the swings, palms sweaty, heart rattling in my chest. And then I saw her, Juliet, holding Claudia's hand, chewing on a cracker, hair tied up in a crooked ponytail. She saw me, stared at me, tilted her head like she recognized something. Then she smiled. A real, lopsided, innocent smile. I didn't cry, not right away. I knelt down and said, hi, and she said it back like it was the most normal thing in the world. She handed me a cracker. I took it. We sat on the grass. We didn't talk about Trina. We didn't talk about betrayal or pain or the things that had been stolen from us. For that moment, we were just 2 people in the middle of something new. Something clean. That evening, when I told my sister how it went, I used a word I hadn't used in months. Lucky. I felt lucky. Because even after everything, after the lies, the affairs, the humiliation, I was given something unexpected. Something that no one could fake or twist or take away. I was given a beginning. Not a replacement for what I lost, but a reason to keep going. And maybe, just maybe, a reason to believe in something good again.